Hello QuickBooks users. So if you have a new company and you need to start to set it up, or if you have a company that's been around and you just want to make some customizable changes to it, we're going to look at how you would go about doing that. So if you go up to the gear and then you select account and settings. So notice there's different areas we can control over here in the left sidebar. What we're going to be able to do is set up the company and the way it looks, the way our forms look, and customize how things work in QuickBooks. So first of all, here's just the company information. So you could add a logo if you wanted to. A lot of this stuff you'll know, like for example, company type. Do you have a sole proprietorship? Do you have a limited liability company? These are things you would already know. Your contact information, you could add that here. You have addresses. You have a corporate address. You have a customer address, the address that you would want your customers to use, and a legal address, and then some marketing preferences. In other words, how often do you want QuickBooks to contact you? Then if you go to usage, this allows you to see the number of users that you're currently using and the limits on your account. For example, there's a limit for your chart of accounts of 250 accounts on your chart of account, and it tells you how many you're using. So this is just the how close you're getting to your different limits. When you go to sales, you can actually customize your invoices and other things that you use to communicate with your customers. For example, if we go to customize the look and feel, over here in style we can look at the invoice, and then you can see the invoice, and you can actually go in and you can make changes here to make the invoice look like you want it to. Getting back to the sales tab, notice you can look at the sales form and you can change the things that are displayed on the sales form. And if you're not sure about something, there's an information box. Just click on, for example, service date. What does that mean? If you click on it, it provides you with more information. You can see the products and services. You can determine whether or not you want late fees. You can do progress invoicing. What this means is, say that you have a big customer and they have a big job, and so you give them an estimate, and then later on you want to invoice them from that estimate, but you're going to invoice them multiple times as you progress through the project. This is where you would be able to do that. You can set up messages. You can customize them and have them say exactly what you want. You can set reminders up. You can set online delivery. For example, how do you want your emails to be provided to your customers? And then you can set up statements, listing each account transaction as a single line. A statement includes all unpaid transactions for a customer. Choose how much detail to include. So you may want your customer to have more or less detail for each line item on their statement. When you go to expenses, notice that for the bills and expenses, you can customize the different information that would be available on those. So do you want to track expenses and item by customer, or is that not necessary? A lot of times you have too much information. If you're not tracking something by customer, you don't want to see that because it just clutters up your reporting. Do you want to use purchase orders? And if so, what kind of message do you want? On the advanced settings, we have a lot of stuff here. For example, what if you're not a fiscal year January company? Some companies have fiscal years at different times. So you could change that here. You can change the accounting method from accrual to cash basis. Company type, we saw that earlier, but it's provided here also. Then your chart of accounts. Do you want to enable account numbers? I personally like the idea of account numbers, so if it was me, I would enable that. And you can either determine how you want those to be seen, and again, that gives you a little bit more information here to help you make your decision. A lot of this stuff you can do it and then go back later on and change it if you don't like it. Much of this stuff is not so important that you get it exactly the way you want it right off the bat, because you may not know until later on how you want things to look once you get into your operations and once you start to see what would work better for you. Maybe something you thought would work doesn't, so you want to go back and change it. This is where you would go. Do you want to do categories and subcategories? What about automation? Do you want things automatically filled out? Sometimes that's great, but sometimes automatically filling things out can lead to errors if things are defaulting to something and you forget it and you forget to change that default. It's kind of like spell check, right? Spell check sometimes can be great and then sometimes can be a little frustrating. How do you want your projects? How do you want to track time? Each of these things you would have to consider for your own organization or for your client's organization. What's your home currency? And then here's some other preferences, such as how you want your dates and number formats to look. That could be very useful for you, especially if you're dealing with international organizations that might have a different date format. That could become very confusing if you don't have this ironed out. So once you go through and do this for your company, a lot of this stuff is purely based on your preferences, then you can really get reports that work best for your organization. And when you're done, just click the X, and then you can go back and now you're in the operations area where you can do your sales and expenses. We'll start looking at that soon.